What's up, ballers? Jacob here with All Drive No Drop, episode 3 of the All Drive No Drop podcast. I'm joined by David from Tickle My Pickle again, back from a deep slumber today. He's grinding in the real world. But what's going on, David? How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How about you?
Uh, I'm fine. It was sunny here all day, and then it rained in the evening. So, I mean, at least I got to be outside for a couple hours. No
Yeah,
pickleball
it's
for me
better
today.
than we had rain like pretty much the last few days.
I know it's all weekend last weekend with the hurricane weather. I mean, I'm in Michigan, so we didn't get the hurricane, but we got some residual effects, and no pickleball was had all weekend. But I was able to get in some yesterday, so
Oh,
it's
that's
all good.
good.
So we're going to talk about some different paddle related things today. Of course, we're going to talk about how we would recommend you choose a paddle, our personal paddle preferences, and then how do we choose which paddles we review? How do we adjust our games with all the paddles we're using? The review process, and then what do we do with all those paddles? I probably have, or what do we do with the leftover paddles? I think I have probably over 100 now. You probably you might have more. You've been doing it longer. Do you have over 200? Or you? Well, we'll save that to the end.
Yeah,
Don't
we'll
give
get
don't
there.
give away the spoiler. But just I wanted to talk real quick before we get into it about the Chorus Supercourt because it's a limited run. I think October 12th. I was able to play a few games with it. It kind of reminded me of playing with the peak hole paddles. If you guys know what those are, either like I think they're called the Spoon 2. They're like a long 7-inch handle with a very small face. This one isn't as small of a face and not as long as the handle of the Core Super Court, but limited run October 12th. Very fun to play with. If you're looking for something that's like I wouldn't say it's like an advanced trainer paddle, but if you like the trainer paddle feeling, or you like the peak hole paddles, but you wanted something with a wider sweet spot, just a bigger face, it's very fun. Not thermoform, very soft feeling. It's not going to blow anyone away, but it is very fun to play with, especially if you like a whippy paddle with a long handle. Um, and David has not hit with it, so
Yeah.
just I'm not silencing him. He just hasn't. uh, okay, so how do you choose a pickleball paddle? Some of the most popular videos on YouTube when I was just looking up, what are other people saying is how to choose a pickleball paddle. I mean, it's probably something I Googled when I first started playing. I'm sure you probably Googled
Oh,
it once
definitely.
upon a
Yeah, I've been
time.
there. Yep.
And when did you start playing? Was it about 3 years ago?
Uh, I think I started my channel last January, I believe, of
Okay.
2020 or 2023. So I started in 2022.
Okay.
So yeah, I think about 2.5 years now.
Okay. Yeah, I think I started summer of 2021, and at that time the only information I was really finding, I think maybe there was a guy called Barrett from I forgot what his he still does videos sometimes, but he was doing a little bit of talk about paddles, and then there was a lot of random blogs that had paddle lists, but I don't even know if they were putting much thought into it or they were just kind of like picking paddles off websites and putting them there. So it was very hard to get information on how to choose a paddle. And I think today we have the opposite problem is there's too much information to choose a
Yeah.
paddle. So it's
Mhm.
just overwhelming to people. Like I was writing down all like the different attributes of a paddle that people might think about, like spin, power, pop, sweet spot, swing weight, twist weight, stability. But I kind of think that the most important thing for someone that's coming to choose a paddle, say like you're a beginner, is more like, hey, if you need a certain handle length, like say you're coming from tennis, you have the two in the back end, maybe handle length and then the shape. Those are really like the main two things to consider if you're brand new and you're really just trying to like get into stuff. Would you say there's any other factor that you would look at if you're just brand new, like you just really want to get into the game and you don't know much, you just want to look at a
Yeah,
paddle?
I think it's like taking like a step back. It's like, what are your goals?
That's
Um,
true.
I think some people are just like, I'm just here to play with my friends every now and then.
Mhm.
And for them, I'm just like, get the cheapest deal you can.
Yeah,
Like
you
either
don't
just
really
get
need
a
to worry about anything else besides just getting something to play with. And
yeah. And at that point, I'm like, go for Amazon. And if you want something slightly better, like do the Friday deal if you've got friends.
yeah.
But that's not a paddle I would recommend for a beginner. That's just this is for someone that's just trying to play for fun.
Yeah. So
Um,
when you say a beginner, you're saying someone that's like, hey, I've dabbled with my friends and I really love it and I want to get into it and get better. That's kind of the person we're gonna be talking about how to choose the paddle for.
Yeah, so someone
Okay.
that's like kind of serious, like
Okay.
they've done their research and or like they want to do the research, they want to put in that effort,
Yeah.
and then kind of split that in between. Do you have a racket sport background, or do you just like no idea what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah, so when I was trying to determine which shape would be good for which person, I mean, I think it's easy to say for a former tennis player, you're going to go with an elongated shape to start out and not necessarily end up with that shape, but it's a good shape to start with. And I think, coming from tennis myself, if I didn't start with the elongated shape, I think it would have been harder for me. Like the first time I used a wide body shape, coming from the elongated, like I would miss the ball all the time. Just
Mhm.
so I think if you're a tennis player, your best bet is to stay with the elongated shape. um, the other racket sports I'm not as familiar with because I mean, I only played tennis mainly. And I've heard different things from like ping pong table tennis players that like some like a long handle and then some like the shortest handle possible. It seems like you would think they would want the shorter handle, but some
Yeah,
like
that's
the
what I
longer
was
handle for
thinking.
the whip.
Yeah.
I think it probably goes more towards a shorter handle, shorter paddle, like the standard wide body.
Mhm.
But and then I was thinking, like, you don't have any racket sport background. I would just suggest the wide body. I'd probably suggest the 11624 Jelly Bean. I think that's the best paddle for a beginner that wants to get really serious and doesn't have a racket sports background. I think that paddle is just really, really good, and you could go really far with it. Do you think there's any other paddles that you would recommend for like a non-racket sport background?
The other one I would say is the Vatic Prism Flash 16 millimeter. Um, Other one is like if you as like the Jelly Bean has a bit of a longer handle, right? So
Yep,
if you
yep.
want like a shorter one, there's a small brand called Lux. They have this finesse paddle, and I don't think you've probably heard of this one, but it's a Gen 1.5 in that standard shape with like a
Okay.
5-inch handle. So
Okay. Yeah,
it
I haven't heard of it. It's just so many brands. I haven't really been looking into
yeah.
any of the newer brands as much lately, which we'll get into and how we choose our pickleball paddles. But yeah, the Vatic Prism Flash, and it is good to know the if you really want a shorter handle, then I guess the Jelly Bean would not be the best bet if you wanted that shorter handle.
Yeah, because
And
I
then
think at this point, I wouldn't recommend like Gen 1 anymore because I mean, if
yeah,
you can get 1.5 for
yeah,
100 bucks.
because I think originally some people were saying like, oh, the Gen 1 might be better because maybe less pop. But honestly, it's just like with how much bigger of a sweet spot you get in the thermoform paddle, and there's a lot of thermoform paddles that aren't too poppy. Like for a beginner, I don't think there's any reason to stay away from either a Gen 1.5 or a Gen 2 paddle these days. Like when I was thinking about which just kind of generic paddles I would recommend for like a beginner, from different backgrounds, I was thinking about like for the tennis players, I would recommend like a Shogun or a Pulsar FX-R1 or the Hirache X. I mean, I really think the Shogun and Pulsar FX R1 are really good. From the tennis players I know, it seems like that really those paddles really connect with them when they first come over.
Mhm.
But and then like for the hybrids, I mean, I think the J2. Have you played with the J2 Ti yet?
Yeah, I have.
I really think that's a pretty good one for if you're like, hey, I've tried a hybrid shape, or I just think the hybrid shapes for me. I think the J2 Ti could be one of the better ones for a beginner. It's not too poppy. Uh, it feels really good. It feels like the control is up there with the best of them. So that's one of them I would recommend if you wanted the
Yeah.
hybrid shape.
I would say the best like hybrid shape, like all court, would be that J2K series, like JTK or J2 Ti.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
personally would go Ti over the J2K though.
Yeah, I would recommend the J2 Ti just if we're talking strictly like for a beginner, but J2K if you're like, if we're getting more advanced and you want a few like more pop. I think it has more power. I don't know if what you think about that, but I think it comes heavier stock weight, comes a little higher swing weight. It just seems like it generates a little bit more power for me. And I've used both quite a bit. So, but either way, they're pretty similar. It's just that feel and less pop
Mm.
for that TI. But yeah, and then if you really want to get advanced into how you choose your paddle, I don't think you really need to look into spin too much anymore. That used to be a big factor. I think most of the paddles, like spin's not really going to be an issue for you anymore.
Yeah,
They're all
especially for
generating a
like
lot.
beginners, like a lot of the shots you're using, you're not even using that much
Oh
spin.
yeah, yeah,
Like you see, like even at like higher levels, like people are doing a push dink, they're not doing a topspin dink, or their drops, they're not using any topspin on it. You're like literally just using a touch on it. So like worrying about those RPMs isn't really necessary.
for sure. And then I mean, I think worrying about the power isn't it's not a huge deal, especially like early on. I think you actually want something with maybe less. I don't know if you want something with less power, but you don't want something too powerful where you can't control it. I mean, once we start talking, you're getting advanced. Of course, these power and pop and this and in the even sweet spot. If you're getting into the advanced area, probably isn't as important unless you're talking about something super small like for me a gearbox pro power sweet spot.
Mm.
But like most of the Gen 2 paddles, like they have a pretty good sweet spot. I don't think you have to worry too much about it. I think then you get into things like swing weight where you're just gonna end up finding what swing weight range you want, and then it kind of just helps like, hey, is this swing weight stock too high or I can't customize the paddle anymore? Um, but yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of factors. But you like go back to what we said about the just if you're looking to get the paddle as a beginner, go with one of those recommendations based on what we said, and it's just don't worry about all the other stuff right now. I mean,
Mm.
it's us paddle nerds out there like to focus on these things, but at the end of the day, just getting one of those good paddles in your hand and playing, that's going to improve your game the fastest, and then you'll learn like what you want more of out of your paddle or want less of, and that take it from there.
Are you in the camp of a beginner should start with a control paddle or all court? And then like, because like I've heard both where it's like beginner, you should learn the fundamentals with the control paddle, or are you like all court and like go from do you want more control or more power from there?
Yeah, so that's kind of why I don't really recommend the Vatic Prism Flash anymore. I just feel like it doesn't have enough juice, and
Mm.
I think when people are playing with people that have more powerful paddles, they're gonna kind of miss that power right away. They're like, wow, that it seems like you can hit it so much harder than me, and that's kind of why I like the Jelly Bean. It feels like with that fiberglass layer, you do get at least a little bit extra juice out of it, and that's why I would start recommending like the hybrid and elongated paddles, getting thermoform paddles right away. I think that those are just going to you're not going to outgrow them as fast as like the Vatic Prism Flash, which I do enjoy. It's just I don't know. It's just like it really lacks the finishing power, and I think that's one thing. Especially if you're not coming from a racket sports background, you're not going to be able to finish the ball with it, and on like an overhead or something. It's not going to help you at all in that
Okay,
regard.
that's fair.
But it's still fine. I mean, like when we were talking, if you're like 3.035 beginner, like it's probably it's going to be fine. So,
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, if you're like I still am confused. If any of those paddles, you could just pick the best looking one. You'll probably
yeah.
still be happy with it. Okay, yeah. So for a beginner, in each shape, for a wide body, I would pick the 11.624 Jelly Bean.
Mm.
For me, for a beginner, it's not close. So I would pick that. For intermediate, I would pick the Honolulu J2 Ti. For elongated, that one I think is a little harder for me to pick what my best elongated one, because that one just kind of depends on their background. If they're coming from a tennis background, I would put the Rhombus Pulsar FX R1 in their hands. I just just from my personal observations, it seems like the tennis players really love that one. If they're not from a tennis background and they still want the elongated paddle, I'd probably just put a Gladius Centurion in their hand, something softer. Um, what would you agree with or disagree with there, or what would you do for your wide body hybrid and elongated?
Yeah, so wide body, I agree with you there. If if cost is being factored in, the Jelly Bean. If cost wasn't being factored, I would say the Apollo.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's only like $17 difference, but
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I don't think you would be too
yeah.
concerned about the cost and the $17 difference.
For the hybrid, this is one where I guess this is where have not really an issue with the J2K shape, or I guess the J2 shape now that they've all become the same mold. But
Yeah.
this is more of a personal preference, and even like some people in my area. But like the way that the J2 is that it pushes a lot of that weight distribution down, so you get that high twist weight number. But if you're someone with a tennis background or someone who likes to hit near the top of the paddle, you're going to miss hit a bit more compared to, let's say, if you were using a regular hybrid paddle with that taper that comes down, because that's where bounce point is towards the head.
Yeah.
So if you don't have like a tennis background, I would say like J2 Ti or J2K. I don't know which one's cheaper actually off the top of my head, but
I think the J2K is it's by $5, but I mean, yeah,
no,
not a
yeah,
big.
well, at that point, it's not an
Yeah.
issue. But if you did have a tennis background, I would actually say the Picklin Electo series. That's probably one of the cheaper Kevlar paddles. And that hybrid shape, it's got that flare. I think it's also around like that 120-ish range. So just because that balance point's a bit higher, the sweet spot is going to sit a bit higher compared to a
That's
J2
a
shape.
hybrid shape too, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's got the flare, so
Okay.
it's balance point's a bit higher. And then elongated, I would just say mine was also the same, the Gladius Centurion.
Okay.
For $90, and
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
I
just
use that for a bit, and it's great. So I mean,
yeah,
I think you'd be happy with that, and you could figure out what you wanted more or less of, and you won't be feeling bad about getting a really good $90 paddle. So
yeah. It's got that sharper throat taper too, so it's got more hands compared to some of the other elongated paddles. But if money wasn't an issue, I think I would say the Shogun. I like the feel of that a lot.
oh yeah, yeah, that's a great one too. I to only give one, I would give the Rhombus, but like the Shogun is definitely up there with my elongated. So personal paddle preferences. I think we kind of talked about what we like right now, but I'll give you my top three paddles that I'm playing with. So I'm playing with the Spartus Olympus, the Honolulu J2K. I mean, I guess that's kind of my top two, and then it's rotating there. I mean, I'm trying not to main too many different paddles because it makes my game worse. So Spartus Olympus, Honolulu J2K, and then I've been messing around with the Ripple R2 a lot just because that review's sometime coming out whenever the official launch is, and
Yeah.
seeing if I can handle all that power. What have you been playing mostly lately?
Um, yeah, same with you, the Olympus. I typically don't like hybrid paddles. So I'm kind of weird that way. Usually I like elongated or wide body, because like when I use an elongated paddle, I complain that the sweet spot and forgiveness isn't good enough. And then when I use a wide body, I complain I don't have enough power. And then when I use a hybrid, I complain about both. So I think that's why I have an
Gotcha.
issue.
Ooh.
But
You tried
I
the
think
the
if I would like
bird,
to,
the Falcon Elite bird from the
yeah, maybe I gotta try that one. Yeah, Olympus, I like that a lot. I think I might like it better if it was in one of the other shapes, but that's my top one for now. Like I was doing a lot of paddle testing this past week, and then someone wanted to try out the Olympus, and then after they were done with it, I tried it out, and I was just like, this paddle's just so good. It was just better than everything I just used.
I've been doing a lot of testing, and then when I have to like step my game up, if I'm playing a higher level game, I still go back to the Olympus right now because it's just what I've been putting all my time in. But because I played a tournament last month, and I was like, I just can't use anything else right now if it's like I really need to play to my best ability. But it is what it is.
Yeah, that's just a good paddle. Um, Number two, well, I'd say number two, 11624 Monarch, the all court. That's currently my favorite wide body. And then favorite elongated used to be the V7 Prism, but I started using the Shogun a bit more. And I'm a big fan of the feel of that. I just like the how it feels off the face compared to all the other elongated paddles, and the handle's not too long on it, so like I think it's got a bit more forgiveness compared to some of those longer handles. But yeah, I think the Shogun's like it rose a lot in the ranks recently for me.
Yeah, I need to give it another run. I'm probably gonna do like top titanium paddles. That titanium's in quotes, of course.
Yeah.
Um, real roundup because I think I have like five now, so we'll see. Um, so I guess we'll move on to how we choose paddles for review. I'll give like a quick backstory real quick on me. Um, like I got into reviewing when I was writing for the Dink. I think one day it was either yeah, I think he came in the Discord. There used to be a Discord called like the Worldwide Pickleball or something. I don't know if you were ever in that one. Or Pickleball Worldwide, I think it was called. And Thomas from the Dink came in there looking for people to write, and I was doing copywriting at the time, and I was like, all right, let me try out writing pickleball paddle reviews because I had been playing for I think about a year at that point. So I started writing. I got some contacts with some companies, and I was going on. Things kind of fizzled out there. They just didn't want to do reviews anymore, and I was writing other content, but I was just it just didn't work out. Then I started writing for Selkirk. I think my articles are still up for Selkirk and the Dink when I
Mm.
Google my name. So that wasn't any paddle reviews, and I got bored. I was like, I want to do paddle reviews again. So I started up the YouTube. Just started called up all the people that I've worked with before, and started looking at paddles. So I mean, like I'll just talk for myself. I started just reaching out to different companies to get different paddles to review and then I did buy some on my own because I mean some of the companies, they're not all the big companies would respond to someone that has no following, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and that kind of grew into the point today where I have relationships with most of the companies except Yola. Holler at me if someone from your company's watching.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, so like most of the people I have relationships with all like the main paddle companies, and I get sent the paddles for free, and I mean I'm pretty sure that's how it works for most of the reviewers. And now it comes down to working with new people. Do I look at the paddle and does it offer anything different? So that's kind of what I'm looking at when I get pitched new paddles from new companies. Does that paddle offer anything new to the market? Or if there's just a ton of buzz on Reddit, Discord, the Facebook groups, if I see a lot of people talking about it, then I'll go find out about it and want to make a review. But if no one's talking about it and the paddle doesn't look interesting to me, I just don't have the willpower or interest to review it. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how I pick my paddles. It's got to be interesting to me, and it has to be something that I think other people are going to be interested in because something
Mhm.
like I made a review I think on the Temper Terra, which I really really liked, but just still no one knows about what the company who the company is, and it just it doesn't do any good to review a paddle that no one has any interest in. Is
Mhm.
kind of how I feel is so that's kind of what I look for when I'm choosing a paddle to review.
Got it. Okay.
What about you?
Um, yeah, for me, I guess it started the same way as you, where it's like, I mean, I started out like buying every paddle at first, and then because I was just like, let me make this comparison myself. So to give some context, that first video I did was Vatic versus Carbon, because Chris did that review of the Carbon and was saying like, oh, Vatic does it cheaper. So like, I made that review. I bought both paddles, and then that one started making money. So then from commission, and after
That was
that,
probably a good one to start with at the
yeah.
time, right?
Yeah, this was, like, back in, like, January, like, right when Carbon dropped. So, there's a lot of buzz around there, and I was just like, "Let me hit it side by side, the 3-5 player, see what if I can't tell the difference between these 2, I feel like a big chunk of people watching this probably can't either." Yeah, I started there, and then, I was borrowing a lot of paddles from people that did buy them, and that's what I was using for reviews until got to the point where there's relationships with companies now. But yeah, going to like new brands, it's similar to you where it's, are you bringing any new tech? Like even just today, I was sending emails to people. Some actually a brand in Michigan reached out.
Okay, I was actually just gonna ask you because I
Yeah.
got an email from them today too. So
Um,
uh, I didn't see anything that looked interesting there, but
if you do, is it the Velo
yeah, I
pickle?
mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same
Yeah.
company.
So I actually responded to them, and
Okay,
I was actually surprised by their response back when I asked. Because usually I'm really blunt with the email reply. If they send you something that's like, "Oh, it's thermoform that uses this," you hear all
yeah.
that marketing jargon.
Yes, it was. I didn't see anything in their email that made it sound like they did any research. I just straight up asked, "Is this a catalog paddle? What is unique about it?" So
Mhm.
I didn't. What they say? They'll probably respond the same thing to me.
So they actually use a 6 millimeter diameter core,
Okay.
which is not something. I guess that's something that not every brand really discloses, like what core they're using. But I mean, for them, that's pretty small because normally it's like that eight or you think eight's even considered small. It's like that 10 or 12 millimeters, right?
I don't know, like, because you're right. They don't really. Not everyone discloses it. So I
Mm.
mean, but if that's the only difference, unless like the actual polymer core itself is somehow different, like say like Paddletek's core, um, I don't know. I mean, so that's all they were. That's their main unique thing,
One other
or
thing was what they put in the edges. They said like it's not the same edge foam that other companies are using.
okay,
They had like they're saying something about like an anti-vibration tech, and so this gets to that point where it's like, okay, you responded to me and you said something, and then I'll just say like, okay, I'll try it out, but if it's not good, like
yeah,
I won't review the video, or
mm,
I won't do waste my time with the video. But
yeah,
if you took the time to write a response and like give me something that's like, okay, well, maybe there could be something, and I'll hit it side
mm,
by side with something in that similar shape. Like I have so many thermoform paddles in my basement. I'll hit it side by side. If I can actually feel something different, I'll mention it. But
it's
we'll see.
elongated, right? I think.
From the picture, yes. I don't think
Yeah.
they have anything on the website yet.
Okay. Yeah, I know I went to the website and they didn't have anything for sale yet, so I don't know. I We'll see. Maybe I'll check them out. I That's the first time someone pulled the. Did they say Michigan based to you then? They Because I thought they did it just to me since I'm in
No.
Michigan, but
Yeah, they said Michigan based.
okay, maybe they didn't realize I was in
Yeah.
Michigan then because I thought they were trying to pull that card on
Mm.
me. But yeah, it's just like there's so many, and I'm sure you get a ton of like random like Amazon Chinese companies
Oh
that
yeah.
like they're just fishing for some, and they always come to you and they're like, you can make a video and we give you a free paddle. I'm like, I don't need a free paddle. Like I
Yeah.
don't want your free. I've realized like you take the offer to like review, like check the paddle out, and then some of the companies just keep hounding you even though you said like, hey, I'm just gonna check the paddle out. I can't guarantee a review because
Yeah.
it takes so much time to do the review. And if the paddle is not worth anything, like now just like you do a roundup, like that's a good way to mention it, or just mention it on the podcast. Like it just isn't worth an individual video dedicated to a paddle that
Yeah.
isn't special. Like if it's just a generic paddle, it's not worth the effort. Like it takes us a lot of time to do this stuff, and we want
Yeah.
to put quality into the work. And if we're not passionate about it, we're definitely not going to put like our top level of effort into it. So
Yeah.
it's better not to do an individual review, I think, on
Yeah.
these paddles that are just whatever.
One other thing is I used to have like one of my personal emails attached to the YouTube account.
Oh no.
And then so if they reach out to that one, but not the current one, I know it's one of those Chinese manufacturers that like recycle that email. And I
Yeah,
was like, how did you get that
I've
email?
gotten that. I've got. I don't. They definitely do that, and then they change like what email it's coming from, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, just so. I mean, it hasn't actually been like a lot of people reach out on Instagram too, instead of the YouTube email. But yeah, I mean, like definitely down for new companies. It's just like there's so many people and companies contacting us now. It's just we couldn't possibly hit all the paddles, so it's like
Yeah.
gotta be selective on what we do. And obviously the brands that are already established, we always want to hit those when they're coming out with something cool because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
already
Those definitely take
established and people
priority.
are looking
Yeah.
for those reviews. So it's it's
But
it's
one thing
harder
I
and
do,
harder to break in as a new brand right now. Like
yeah.
you got to do something special at this point.
It's like either special or your price needs to be low enough, and that's what I always check.
Yeah, even coming out with under 100 now is hard to like make it stand out because there's so many under 100.
Yeah.
So it's like if you come under 100, you got to bring some feature that maybe like a 150 or 200 paddle comes out with, but it's under 100. I like say you came out with $100 Olympus or something, right? Like maybe maybe that would be sparking some attention, but
Yeah.
yeah. Um so got through that. I mean, like we select the paddles basically based on what level of interest we think they'll generate. But how do we adjust our game when we're playing with all these different paddles? Like you hear people say, just stick with one paddle. Changing the paddle is just going to make you worse if you keep changing it. Do you think it makes your game worse? And how do you adjust to not be a 3-5 on the court?
Yeah, it definitely makes me worse. What I think I always have a transition whenever it's like a different paddle shape. And so when I did like wide body paddles, I think Spartus was that first. The Apollo was the first one I started with, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm hitting the Mach 2 Forza, I'm hitting the Monarch, just all the wide bodies. Like I'm hitting these all at once, and then that 2 month period, all I did was hit wide bodies and touch a single elongated. And that's something I started doing recently. And I think it's been helping out. And then I slowly transitioned. Like right now, I think I started doing more hybrids because of I'm coming up to with the J2 video. And then we'll see, like based on what I get, like I group them up into a category and say, like, I'm bringing all these paddles to hit one day side by side. So these are all going to be elongated paddles. So last week, I had all elongated paddles. And then we just kind of transition based on what I have, and that all obviously affects like the release schedule because it's like, hey, I sent you this paddle so long ago. Why didn't you release until later? I was like, well,
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
adjust like my playing style. I can't just hit a different paddle every
No,
day.
that actually makes a lot of sense because I had a lot of trouble. Um, I hadn't hit wide bodies for a while, and when I hit that neonic flare, it took me a lot of games to get used to it again because I mean I feel like wide bodies I have to adjust my game to the most just because when you're flicking with those, like you cannot hit the tip of it,
Oh
like
yeah,
it just dies so fast. So that was my biggest problem when I switched to the wide bodies is like the flicks are just awful, and and it's one of my favorite shots. So
uh,
it affects me. So like hybrids, elongateds, I feel like I don't really need too much adjustment period. But yeah, for me, I don't know if you I think you feel the same as like those wide bodies. Is like it really there's just something about it. I have to like only play with the wide bodies that day because I cannot switch from a wide body to a hybrid to elongated and like play well. Um, and it's crazy every time I post like the wide body review, people are asking me like, oh, how does it compare to this elongated? I'm like, how? I was like, this, I don't know. I was like, who's making the decision point between this wide body and elongated? There's such different play
yeah,
styles. Like I play with them all, but I'm like I don't think anyone else should play with wide body and elongated. Like I would settle on something like settle on the shape. I think picking your shape is really important. Like if you really want to get better and just stick with that shape because I think it messes up your mechanics because you're messing with how far away your sweet spot is from your hand, and it definitely messes me up switching around with all the paddles. It just kind of takes like a good mental focus when I'm playing and switching shapes. I really have to focus on like how far away I am hitting the ball.
yeah. I'm with you on that. Like for me, it's like I can't hit all like I can't even switch between the three shapes itself. So like I can't go from elongated to hybrid either. Like I like that any shape change is going to be an adjustment. And I think one big thing is my counters are just so off because of the swing weights is just so much different. Like
Yeah.
yesterday, I just whiffed like my first three counters because I was using a wide body for a bit, switched to an elongated, and I just like completely whiffed because I was just so late on the
You
shot.
know what? Now that I think about it, yesterday I was playing with the I don't even know what it's called now. The next gen Valor Pro new hybrid. But I was playing with
Yeah.
that, and I switched to the Ripple R2, and I did
Uh,
with two shots.
yeah.
And so I was like, you wouldn't think like such a small length difference would matter, but like it was probably more of like the timing of it
Yeah.
too. just with how light the ripple is. And we do have it weighted up, but it still feels just so fast and like it's. I whiffed two balls. Like I think it was literally like not back to back, but maybe like one shot in between. Whiffed a
Mhm.
ground stroke, then whiffed an overhead, and there people were just looking at me like, really? Yeah, I'm like, it's not my. So
As long as the camera wasn't on, that's what I always tell
I
people.
think the camera was on. I also my friend and I have an agreement. We can throw this in there. Uh that we can try to nasty Nelson each other once per game.
Mhm.
Um I know people have some wild thoughts on nasty Nelsons, whether they're okay or not. I think it's okay if you know the person. But so
Mhm.
he got me with the nasty Nelson, and I clipped it for him, and I sent it to him. He said he's like he was showing his whole family. Like I was like, here, go show your wife what you've been out there doing. But yeah, for me, it's not a big deal. I'm like, I if I mess up, I'll put it in like a clip. Like if I look really bad, like I'll put it in the gameplay. I'm like, that's pretty funny. Like, got to be able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, all right, so the review process. We talked about all how we choose our paddles, how we adjust our game. Do you have a set review process every time that you follow the same? For me, I don't have an exact process every time. It's different. For me, it just depends. Like how many paddles do I want to compare it to? Because I always bring out some other paddles that I know people are going to ask questions about,
Mhm.
and I just hit it until I feel like I know the paddle. I don't have and I mean, and then I do power and pop numbers, uh, and that's just I have a radar gun that I don't need anyone to hold. What's it called? It's called a pocket radar, and so I can attach that to either my I have a ball cart, or if there's a fence, I can attach that and I can run those numbers. But besides that, I go out, I don't measure anything, twist weight, swing weight. I try not to look into that stuff. I don't want to know any of the facing material. I try to just go in, go play with the paddles, and not have any thoughts on my mind before I go play with them.
Okay. Um, yeah, for me, it's first day is always just gonna be hitting that paddle itself, just blind thoughts. Though I do the swing weights and toe weights beforehand.
Okay.
Though thinking about what you just said, I was like, that probably makes more sense. I'm not like thinking about those numbers while I'm hitting it.
Yeah.
Might try that next time. So yeah, day one is just gonna hit that paddle like on its own. Then day two is going to be well, if I have time, what I actually do most of my comparisons are actually against a wall.
Okay.
Um, once I once I like release this video on the Dinkmaster Pro,
I was
you'll
gonna
see,
ask you if you
yeah.
got the Dinkmaster Pro.
So you'll the comparison is that all that I've done before was like I have a table, like the one I'm using right now, and I just turned it on its side and I put it against the wall, and it's just
Is
not
a is
great.
the Dinkmaster Pro an upgrade?
Oh
Foot, I guess.
yes, yeah. So I can't wait to
I've
show
been
off
I've
that
been
setup.
loving the Dinkmaster Pro. Like I was like I would have been using this for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I once I show off that setup, you'll see like how I've been reviewing paddles for like for more comparisons, like
Gotcha.
dinking against the wall, kind of kind of like a spin comparison too, because even you can still generate some spin with that. And then if I have time, I can go to like the courts nearby. There's a wall there, so there's a lot of wall drills, which is what I
Okay.
use for comparing. Because I'll bring out like if something's a hybrid, I always bring out 6-0 double black diamond. I was like, how does it compare to that? Because everyone's
Yeah,
gonna
people
ask that.
always ask for that compare.
Yeah.
It's a good benchmark to give people, so it makes
Yeah, and
sense.
then after that, it's I'll bring out all the different like if it's a hybrid, all different hybrid paddles, and I will switch in between like every few points, and then my partner will get mad at me and ask me why I'm doing that, and I was like, well, hey, I got to make this comparison.
I
If we
know
lose,
I
it's
wish
not
I
my
lived
fault.
around other people doing reviews so that like we could all just switch paddles and no one would care. Be like, dude, I don't care if we win the game. I'm trying to do a review.
Yeah, like there's one other thing is like I always go for an Ernie. Like if there's like a 1% chance I'll get it, I was like, okay, it's a win-win. Either I get an Ernie and it's sick, or I miss and it's funny and it goes in the blooper reel. So either way,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go for it. But
I hear you. Sometimes I'm doing stuff because I know like, oh, this will look good on the camera.
yeah.
So I mean, what can you do if you're making content? You have to, you know, do a little extra something something on the court for the camera.
Yeah. And then my friends have decided now every time I do a highlight against them, they started cursing really loudly because like puts makes me do an extra effort to censor it out.
Oh, do you leave the audio on usually for like the
Yeah, I usually just
okay.
kind of have the audio on, so my friends will
Okay.
just like purposely yell like some obscenity, and I have to be
Okay.
like, all
That
right,
I
no,
just
don't
mute
do
it
that.
because I'm like people like I always get some hooligans and they're like, "Oh, sorry. Oh, can we swear?" And I'm like, "Don't worry. I just mute everything." I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't even want to listen to what you were saying. And
yeah,
people, people say some wild stuff in the camera when you listen back, especially when you're on like the other side of the court of the camera. Wild stuff.
yeah,
But funny stuff too. But
mhm,
not probably not appropriate for YouTube.
yeah.
Um,
It gets demonetized.
yeah, I don't think there's anything uh like if you wanted to get into reviewing paddles, I don't think you need a formula. You just need to be able to describe what you feel on the court and describe how the paddle performs. And however you get there, I think it's different for everyone. Everyone's gonna have a different process, just like other things people do in life. Like there's more than one way to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
'Cause I like to stress a lot between, like, how does it compare to what you've used?
yeah,
I do see, like, the value in, like, those numbers in the databases, but I just like to keep it like, "Hey, I think you've probably hit a 6-year double act diamond before, or if you've hit this, and if not, like, ask me the questions, and I can hit it against the wall
yeah.
for a little bit and get back to you."
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if that's the best way to compare, because that's what people always end up asking in the comments, they want to know how it compares to the current paddle they're using. Obviously, can't compare every paddle to every paddle, but yeah, and there's a lot of flaws in testing because, I mean, unless your sample size was really big and you had the same motion over and over, the numbers are always going to vary from reviewer to reviewer. And then say like if I went out there and did it 3 days in a row, I'm probably going to get a little bit different numbers every day. So
Yeah.
definitely not the perfect way for me. I just like having it so I can like refer back to it. I don't
Mhm.
even have mine public. It's more like, I mean, I post it like in the videos, but I just like to refer back to it. So I'm like, oh, okay, what was kind of similar to this? So then I can be like, all right, I'll bring that paddle out so I can compare it to it. But yeah, the numbers, and people, people love their numbers because
Yeah.
they just do. They love their numbers. Um, anything else on the review process that you'd like to mention, or I think we wrapped it up pretty well. Any
Yeah.
cherries on the top?
No, that just, definitely need to always be wary of the people that ask how it compares to the Hudef Mage Pro Gen 2. It's always gonna get asked that.
It does seem that if you look on a lot of reviews, there's a lot of people asking about the Hudef Mage Pro.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Ariana Wilson, I do have my Hudef Mage Pro video review recorded. I just have never released it. Just I got swamped in the reviews and I still haven't posted it. But don't worry, I'm sure it will make an appearance here soon.
Yeah,
There's a
I'm looking
little
forward to
lull in
that.
the paddles right now, I
Yeah.
think. So I think everyone. I don't know. There's paddles coming. What do we got? Like obviously the ripples are coming out. There's going to be a neonic flow and flare prime
Flare,
X. Those
yeah.
will probably be pretty exciting. You don't have? Do you have you hit those yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've only hit the old Flare Prime. I haven't hit the
Okay.
updated ones.
Yeah, and then besides that, I don't really know what's coming. I mean, other stuff like the carbon true foam is just a myth. Uh, that will come out at some point. But anything else like coming down that you're excited about?
I guess you want to do something about like what have we hit recently? We might.
Yeah, we could talk about what we've hit recently. Well, I guess we'll talk real quick. What do we do with the leftover paddles? Um, what do you do with all those paddles? Do you have like a paddle garage? Do you have, are you dealing paddles on the side on the weekend? What's going on with all
I'm
those
like
paddles?
Smog. I just hoard them all. Just no. It depends on what it is. If it's one of those like catalog paddles, I like to just give it away as a gift.
Yeah.
I usually generally don't sell them because I get it for free. And if it's someone that's like learning the sport, and there's always going to be someone that's trying to get into it, and I'm always just like, hey, just let me know. I've got a ton of paddles here. Just pick out which one you think is the coolest out of this bottom shelf. That's fine.
Yeah.
Then there's like the middle
Not from the
shelf,
top
which is
shelf.
yeah. Top shelf is like stuff that I might go back and use, like my favorite ones. So I mean, the Olympus is my bag, but like every I don't know the other stuff.
Yeah.
And
No, I
then
hear you. For me, like I have like two boxes of paddles that I really just like. They're old paddles. I know I'm never going to use them in reviews again. I've just been looking for a good opportunity to give them away. I had some that I gave to like a friend had was doing like an after school program in a gym and teaching kids to play pickleball, and I'm like, hey, like, do they want paddles that they can take out this summer when they're not in school? But like I have so many that I just need to get rid of some that I don't need anymore. So I like to give them away when I can, or give them to friends and family. And then, but there, I mean, there's so many that you do want to hang on to, like we were talking about. We would love to have those for
yeah,
comparisons.
definitely. It's the
And
middle shelf.
like if you haven't hit it in 2 months, you really need to bring it back out just to like
Yeah.
get the feel again. So it's like if there's any chance that we might need the paddle again, like we really don't want to get rid of it
Yeah,
because
definitely.
don't want to have to go buy it.
Yeah.
And that's probably most of the new releases lately. Like if we gave a good review on it, we're probably not giving it away. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna hang on to that one. Sometimes people give me multiple of one, but that's rare. And then in that case, you can give it away. But like, yeah, most people aren't giving me multiple of the same one. Yeah,
Yeah. Wish they did though. It'd be better for I think it would be better for like the numbers measurements just because
yeah, it would help. Just because like sometimes it seems like you get one like there's some different takes on paddles, and sometimes it could come down to like, hey, one person got a lot heavier one, a lot lighter one, or just maybe the quality was off from the manufacturing. So it would help getting to.
yeah.
I don't know if I have enough pull to get to from everyone, but I could start asking. It'd be nice, and then you can give one to someone else. It's always good to like bounce feedback off someone, like
Mhm.
because I know some people that like are very very particular about their paddles, and it's always interesting to get their thoughts. Like like, oh, like you didn't like this paddle, and this is the reason why. Like I had someone hit the Ripple, and they said it didn't have any power, and
Okay.
I'm like, what? Are you sure? But yeah, so it's always interesting, like how people get thoughts on a paddle. Like a lot comes down to feeling for a lot of people. I think like if it feels good or feels comfortable to what they're used to. Yeah, that was interesting to hear. Like the Ripple didn't have any power. I mean, I don't
Yeah. Were they playing in a desert or something?
know, just playing in Michigan.
Mhm.
But yeah, just some wild stuff out there. Where we at? So what have you been hitting lately? I think we wrapped up most of the review process and everything. What's on your mind lately? Like what do you got coming out, or do you have anything you've been enjoying besides your Dink Master Pro and your
Yeah.
table?
J2 video is gonna come out soon.
J2 Ti or
Oh, I just
just
did a
J2
full
series?
full
J2
series.
series?
Yeah.
Okay.
I figured if we're gonna
Actually,
do it, might as well just do all of them.
that's a good idea. So you've had the J2AH and the J2 regular, I guess
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I didn't
original.
know that they updated the shape on the J2 and the J2H.
They did?
Yeah.
Because they were out of stock for a long time, right? Or
Yeah,
no?
and then because they used to have the double black diamond shape with the taper, but they changed them all to have that J2K shape.
Oh, okay. Then
Yeah.
that's what I have. I
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know a long time ago they had something different. Yeah,
Yeah, the original one was that double black diamond shape, so which is why they had that,
they probably
they got
changed it because someone
the
was threatening to sue
yeah,
them.
I think they
Then
got that letter, but yeah, so
yeah.
I had to spend some time with that, but I started doing or I'm gonna be coming out with, like, a new video series as kind of like a blind, like, first impression.
Okay.
But basically, I'll bring a bunch of paddles with me, and then I'll bring some friends, and then it'll be my first time hitting these paddles, and then everyone else there is, like, not a paddle nerd. So they have no idea what this paddle is, what the construction is, and then so
Just
it's,
put
like,
it
their
in their
first
hand.
time. Yeah.
Okay. I
But the
like it.
first video is, like, sneak peek is gonna be I don't know if have you heard of the AMA NXT1?
I think it might have it.
Yeah, it's
Um.
with the Gen 3 clone.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I don't have it. I have an AMA paddle, but I don't think I have the
Yeah,
Gentle.
this is the newest one where they have the hyperfoam edge wall in the picture. So I tried it out
Okay,
like
that would
one
be
thing,
interesting
and
if it
I didn't told
plays
no one
well.
that there was the edge wall in there. So they just kind of
Yeah,
went
you're
blind.
like, let's see if you think it has power or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Triple J,
I've
if you
been
believe
wanting to
so.
do that. I wanted to like, especially people that main like certain paddles that I know are going to be like good comparisons. I've wanted to get them to record like 30-second thoughts, like, hey, like how do you feel this compares to your main? Because I think that's really good insight. Like what better comparison than the person that mains another paddle that's similar. But I found people hesitant to get on camera and talk about
Yeah.
their thoughts. But I'm hoping to just start convincing people to do it. But I at the same time I understand
Yeah.
it's
I'm
like,
just speaking for them because they didn't
yeah.
want to get
Oh,
on
you're
camera
speaking for
either.
signing them up. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping to include more of that in my future videos. Be it like I know I think it would be interesting, at least, just like 30-second thoughts, like, hey, would you main this? What'd you think about this paddle? Do you like it? What don't
Mhm.
you like compared
Yeah.
to this paddle?
That would be good.
Uh, it's good to get different perspectives in there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, they're tuning in for you and me, right?
Mm.
But it's good. I like getting a variety of thoughts. When I've seen other people do it, I think it's cool that, because sometimes the thoughts are like completely different. You're like, huh, I don't really, but then I really don't know what to do with that. I'm like, you said this and you didn't like it at all, and then you said you loved it. I'm like, what do I do with that information?
Mm.
I don't know. But cool. That's some cool video series. I like it. I've been trying to do different stuff too besides just individual reviews. I feel like you just do an individual review, it really burns you out if you just you keep doing more and
No,
more. Like you
definitely. I feel
gotta you
that.
gotta
Yeah.
have variety in there, because it's tiresome like doing one paddle over after another. um I think I'm going to do a titanium paddle series, or as I still don't know what we're officially calling. I've heard different things. So titanium polyester, electroplated polyester, whatever it is, polyester something. I'm gonna do a series on that just because I think I have like five paddles there, and then I don't know what's coming up next. Dinkmaster Pro, as you said, I'm gonna have probably pretty soon here because I've
Mm.
played that a lot, and I guess it's officially launched, but I don't know if they're shipping that yet. Probably be shipping it pretty soon though. And then what else? I'm going to do like a weight setup guide, because I think how I set my paddles up with weight is a little bit different than like the traditional things people are preaching, and I think it's good to get a different
Yeah.
perspective. Like there's just not one way to do it.
Yeah.
I think that the whole 4 and 8 o'clock, I was doing it for a long time because I kept talking about science, 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 but I don't think it's the best way to
Yeah.
do it for
Yeah.
most paddles.
Weight numbers.
Yeah. Don't get so fixated on twist weight
For
numbers and
sure.
swing weight numbers, because like past a certain, well, first of all, if the sweet spot feels fine and you don't feel any twisting, the twist weight number doesn't really matter. It's just a number. And second, it's like the numbers aren't apples to apples across paddles, and you can have too much twist weight. I think like too
I
much weight
I
in the
agree.
bottom of the paddle, and you just kind of got to think about things more like common sense. Like if you're hitting more towards the top of the paddle, having weight at that top of the paddle is going to benefit you a lot more than having
Yeah.
a ton of weight at the bottom of the paddle.
Mm.
I just think that people have gotten focused too much on the numbers of the twist weight and swing weight, and like
Yeah.
the actual like I'm going to do like I might talk a little bit about swing weight, twist weight, but I'm going to talk about actual like my performance on the court, which I think is the most important thing. So that's one video I want to get out soon, because I'm hoping that it resonates with people. It helped my game a lot by not just doing 4 and 8 o'clock. I don't know how you set up. Maybe you can tell me bring me your setup for what you do on your Olympus. How do you set up your Olympus?
Still experimenting. I tried that 4 and 8. I didn't like that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I doing 10 and 2 right now. I think
Okay.
that's
I
right.
do I
Yes,
do
10
a
is
zero point 0.5 gram strip, zero point 0.5 gram per inch strip from the bottom corner to the top corner. I do it's like probably 4.5 grams almost, maybe 5. That's worked out the best for me, and I've tried a ton of setups, but I feel like its swing weight so low, it benefits a lot from having that weight spread out along the paddle.
Mhm.
That's what I've been doing on all the hybrid shapes now. I just in that like hybrid shapes are one. I feel like a lot of them are some of the worst to put it at 4 and 8. It just I don't think it really does that much for the paddle anymore. Like
Yeah, I just think, like, I actually think that, like, hybrid's that one shape where you need tape on it. Like, I think
yeah,
a lot of wide bodies, you don't need it, and, like, the swing weights on elongated are already high enough, you don't really need it, but, like, hybrids are just they're in that weird in-between spot where I think you need a weight setup on a hybrid.
yeah. I mean for wide bodies, the only reason I add it is to get more power.
Mhm.
Elongated, I think, are the main shape where the 4 and 8 o'clock can actually make sense because those are some of the twistier ones, and
Yeah.
that adding that weight at 4 and 8 o'clock can actually help the stability, and you don't need to add in, any more power usually for those.
Mhm.
Like the wide bodies, it's hard because some of them are coming like the Annalee Waters Bantams. Those come super low stock. I can wrap the whole head and it goes up to like maybe a 120 swing weight. It's still pretty maneuverable and then it hits hard. I haven't got sold on like a good setup for like say like the Monarch All Court like of what I officially would want to do with it. But yeah, you could play it stock no problem. It's
Yeah.
just I think there's a optimal setup, and I'd like to find it, but
Yeah.
we'll
It's
see.
like you can set it up, I think, but I just think I personally don't, but,
You
I
just play
think
it
you definitely
stock.
can depending on what you want. But
Okay.
hybrids, that's the one I'm like, I need some weight on this somewhere. I need to figure it out.
Well, you also said you don't like the hybrids too, so maybe
Yeah,
is that
I
part
think
of the
it's
reason?
yeah, I think that's just because I need some good weight set up somewhere. I mean, I probably need to figure that out, but a
What
lot of times
do you
because
like? What do you what? I guess do you have like a certain weight you're targeting when you're setting up your paddle, or is it just kind of vary paddle to paddle?
yeah, so it depends on, I guess, the review itself because you wanna hit that paddle stock first, and
Yep.
then when I'm comparing stock versus stock, and then, it's like I'll add tape and just to see, like, maybe it can improve some aspect, but then, it gets kinda tough with, like, how long am I gonna spend with this paddle? And so it's just I don't know, I still need to experiment a bit more with, like, maybe just adding it to the head instead of, like, going because I go up the sides as well,
Yeah.
but, I think it's just more of need to figure out what I like on a hybrid.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. I mean, I bring tungsten tape when I go play the paddle because I play it stock, like especially these hybrids along it, but like I already know that's not how I like to play the paddle. So like I'll play it stock, get the feel for it, and then once I feel like I'm good, got the enough feel for it, I'll start messing with the weight because I can't. Some of these paddles stock are just like I don't want to play them anymore. So I gotta get the weight set up, and
Yeah.
people always want the weight set up. So I'm like, all right, let's just do it. I don't. That's a good number. I'd like to find out though. How many people are actually putting weight on their paddle? It's definitely more than before because when I first started doing it, no one was doing it like at my
Mhm.
local courts. Now I would say like most of the players that are 4.0, 4.5 and above, they're doing it. They're putting weight on the paddle. Yeah, but before they'd be like, "Why do you have that stuff on your paddle?"
Uh,
And I didn't know what I was doing at first. Like I weighted up I probably had like a 9.5 ounce paddle weighted up. Like I was just going crazy with
yeah,
it.
my doubles partner actually did that, recently, so he recently switched to the Monarch all court,
Okay.
coming from a elongated shape, and he was like, "I like the feel of this. I like the sweet spot, but it doesn't have enough power." So he added weighted up to be 10 ounces, and then the
Oh
next day
wow.
was like, "I can't play for the next week. I think I hurt my wrist." And I was
Oh
like,
yeah. You
"Okay,
don't
yeah."
want to go too high.
I was like, "This is
Definitely.
why I was telling you about the paddle shapes." But,
He's like, "Don't." Don't tell me about your paddle shapes, nerd.
Yeah. He was like, "No, if I add more weight, I'll get more power." I was like, Up to a certain point, yes."
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you add too much weight, you're not gonna be able to swing it hard enough. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the balance there is. That's all I have for upcoming stuff and
I
just the
guess, have you hit
paddle.
those paddles you have behind you? Is that a circuit?
I have hit the circuit. I haven't hit it enough to give great thoughts on it. I had to weight it up. It's super light,
Yeah.
um, stock, and I think actually I don't even. I this is like some lead tape I had in my bag because I usually use like the tungsten tape roll, but I'll give some more. This I should I don't know if this will be like an individual review or talk about it in the podcast, but interesting tech in this one. They call it Gen 2.9 to be fun. Do you have this one?
Yeah, that was one of the ones I hit my
Yeah.
first impression last week. It's like that one and the also the hyperbeat behind you.
What'd you think about it?
That's like so I guess in that video, there's, like, some that I thought, like, didn't need a, like, additional playtesting. So, like, the
Yeah.
hyperbeat, that's just, like, a really solid, like, $100 paddle.
Hmm.
That was a good one, but that's I don't think I need to hit that one a bit more, but it's a circuit. That one, I think the people that tried it out with me gave it, like, a positive response, but, like, we
Okay.
also hit it with no weight, so we need to do
It
more
was
further
too.
testing
It's
on
too
this one.
light stock, don't you think? Like it's
Yeah,
just yeah,
yeah. I forgot it was
yeah,
14, so
yeah. I'm interested in it. It's different. I really like the design too. I don't know why more people can't just like put the design on these carbon fiber paddles because like I hate when the paddle's boring.
mm,
So I want it to be good, but we'll see more testing. Also, a Michigan company. Shout out to all the great people in Michigan.
yeah. It's a Grand
We have the
Rapids, right?
best. Yeah, Grand Rapids. So
Yeah.
super nice owner. Did you talk to? I think it's Larry.
Larry, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
super
really
nice
nice.
guy. Always appreciate when the owners are nice and friendly. Unlike some that I have
Yes.
talked to recently, but we won't go into that. But
Mm,
yeah, I'll talk about. I'll make sure I take this out next time. Talk about this again because I got caught up with some other paddles, but we'll get that back. And then yeah, the Hypercourt. Is that what it's called? Or
the
Hyperbeat?
Hyperbeat, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Like it's a good paddle for under 100, and then I need to talk. I need to try out the gherkins under 100. I was gonna do a best paddles under 100 video, but kept getting pushed down the list of things to do. It just doesn't seem like people are asking about it as much anymore.
Plus, it's
Like,
like there are all those Amazon brands, that are like some are like $40 thermos, and then you
yeah,
have
so it's like, what can you do to compete under that
yeah,
under 100? Because I mean, they'll probably just go buy the $40 paddle.
yeah, and then if you're
Um,
on Reddit, people are buying those like Alibaba paddles for like 15 bucks.
Yeah, everyone's going. So it's like I don't know if it's really worth my time to try to review these paddles when if no one's buying them because they're either gonna people are going to that lowest price point or they're jumping up to 150, 130 looking for the performance over the price. But and I think one of them's called like Gary, isn't there? There's a
Yeah,
Gary
yeah,
too.
that's a $40 one.
Yeah, it's just like if it's a Gen 2 thermoformed and it plays well, like that's probably a good budget paddle to get. I mean, F2 Sports, it's an edgeless paddle. It's okay. I it's okay. Uh J2Q, if they ever release that, the carbon
Mm,
fiber Kevlar blend from Honolulu. Right there. Pretty good. I like it. I don't know if he's going to release it. Really good pop on it, but in the J2 shape, but we'll
yeah,
see. I know it seems like they have the hardest time keeping up with their inventory sometimes. I always see people commenting like, "When do these ship? When are they
yeah.
going to ship?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, please don't ask me. I don't know. I don't know." But yeah, I think that's it. So I got some paddles to review. I don't think there's really. I haven't heard of. The chorus fires probably are coming up in
Mm.
November. Those will probably be pretty cool. What else? I don't know. Bread and butter. They're cooking up a new loco. I think they're
Mhm.
going to have a titanium loco, and they're going to do a carbon fiber loco. I think they're just really working on the design, what they want to do with it. I know they had to like rework some things. Let's see what else. Any other companies coming out with stuff?
Yeah, none of the big ones, I think. It's
Spartus
just
probably won't be until next year for their next one, right?
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't know.
I
No,
guess
nothing
Supercourt
else on
did
my
have
mind right now.
the Lab 007.
Oh, do they?
I think it's also has a hole in the middle. I don't know if
Oh,
it's actually. I didn't
jeez.
take a big look at it.
I feel like I'm done with whole paddles. I don't. I don't really understand why they keep. I know they like said it was aerodynamic at first, but I just feel like they're so rigid and just lose stability from having that hole. And I do like spinning it, like it's spinning at my finger. That's the only thing I like about it. I don't think it's. I don't know if that's a feature, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been staying as plugged in lately because it just seems like everyone's kind of been. They had all the releases, throughout the summer, and I think the fall is going to be a quieter time. There are some good releases coming, but we'll probably see some late November, early December in time for Christmas. I imagine. I imagine some people are planning
Oh
some stuff
yeah, I
then.
think 11624 might go. Might do the alphas. They're power paddles.
Are they going to officially? I know he's releasing some, uh, but are they going to actually sell them past that? I thought it was going to be a
Uh,
limited release.
so I think he has like the alpha that's approved that like some of his pros
Okay.
use, and
Yeah.
then I don't know if he's gonna sell that one beyond Discord, but I think he was trying to do it like a because he wasn't a big fan of that one, but like it
Okay.
was like one that was meant for his pros. But I think
Yeah.
I think he's trying to get one before the holiday season. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't want to say too many details on it because I don't know like if he's gonna release it, so I don't want to mislead
Yeah.
people. But he might be cooking something up. So
Yeah.
see if we get
Well, I'm
some.
excited for them to get their hybrid shape out too. Whenever
Yeah.
they get that out, that'll be good. Uh, I don't have any other thoughts on any other companies. I'm not sure if it's anything's escaping me, but I'm sure we'll have some more stuff coming out sooner. I know that this like August to September ish, which I guess is almost October's already here, but like I know it's a super busy time where like stuff kind of goes to a standstill when for most things, just because people are getting their kids back to school and summer changes to fall. There's a lot of busy stuff going on, but we'll see what happens coming up this winter. I mean, right now I know the biggest thing on people's minds are the ripples and
Yeah.
when can they get them. And until those are out, I think people are like really focused on those. So we'll see. You've been hitting the ripples still.
Mostly other people have been trying it out just because like I don't know when I can release that review, so
Yeah,
I kind of took a
I
standstill
know.
on that
I
one.
thought it was going to be September. Like I we'll see. I definitely want to just like release the review because people ask about the ripples on every video, and
Yeah.
I just want them to be out so we can stop, you know, having them ask about it on every video. It's okay. Uh, I guess I think we'll wrap this up. I appreciate you joining me, David. Uh, Lost my train of thought, but I appreciate you joining me. It was a great time, and I hope to see you back here again soon. I
Yeah,
think
thanks for
we
having
we
me,
had a
man.
good flow going.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to shout out or say before we get off here?
Very random. I was gonna bring this up earlier, but Beatnik
Sure.
probably has some of the best clothes I've ever worn from a pickleball brand. They sent me some clothes with that hybrid beat, and I will say that material is like way better than all the other brands I've worn.
Did they send you a like long sleeve hoodie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I
Yeah.
do. I do enjoy that. I got
Yeah.
one too. Pretty cool. Yeah. In- Interesting brand. I don't like the look of their paddle, but it's fine. It's a fine one under 100, and yeah, the clothes are really nice.
Yeah. My wife
Um,
stole the hoodie, but I've
yeah,
got the other stuff, and they're just also pretty
it's all
nice.
good. It's all good. Uh, all right. Well, thank you for joining me. Go ahead and subscribe to Tickle My Pickle if you aren't already, and Of course, subscribe, tell drive, no drop. That's a great one too. And have a great day. Hopefully you get to go play some pickleball this week. I know I will. Peace out.